Hey guys, and welcome back to another Conan Exiles video. Today we are in the desert of the Exiled Lands building an Argossean Bath House. This build uses no mods, so without further ado, let's get started. Firstly, I started off with, of course, the base plate. You can see the blueprint on screen now, and it's a fairly simple design that will lend itself well to the design I'm aiming for. The entrance to the build is a stepped foundation walkway, as it's just way more interesting than simply using stairs. It's simple to do, just place a foundation, clip a fence foundation onto the lower clip point, and then place another foundation in line with that fence foundation and then repeat as necessary. I also include step foundations in the transition from the first bath to the second, as it makes the interior feel more unique and adds an interesting dynamic to the build. The base plate itself is quite simple with a double bath design. I did initially build the base plate differently to include a larger front bath, but I did reduce the size to what you can see in the blueprint later on, as I think it works much better. I chose to use Aquilonian foundations here to contrast the Argossean walls I'll use later, which turned out to be a good stylistic decision. Next for the walls. I built the walls on the ground floor using Argossean walls, door frames and windows, and I built them 1 tile high around the front bath and 2 tiles high around the back. I chose to leave the front open for now with only fences between the door frames, though I will be making a change to this towards the end of the building phase. I built the walls around the perimeter of the build, excluding the buttresses, as I'll be doing them towards the end. The contrast between the Argossean walls and the Aquilonian foundations is really quite nice. It definitely makes for a nice colour palette and it stops things getting too monotonous. Next for the first floor ceilings. I firstly used vaulted ceilings to create archways and to just generally shape the interior of the build. I wanted to have some nice shapes on the ground floor to establish a bit more of an opulent atmosphere and to also accentuate the lighting, which worked quite nicely, as you'll see later. I left an open 2x2 above the bath for some verticality, and I also didn't cover the front bath at all, as I wanted a nice balcony overlooking the entrance from the first floor. Next for the first floor walls. I used the same wall pieces from the ground floor on the first, building them 1 tile high. I'm going for a open air gallery sort of design here, so I won't be roofing this off traditionally. Therefore I included some squared off risers, which I think work nicely and they look like they suit the Argossean style quite well, as opposed to the more gothic pointed risers I've used in Stormglass builds in the past. Of course, I did this in a symmetrical fashion to suit the layout of the build, and I also used sloping sides and walls to shape the front entrance and to make it flow a bit better into the design. I also extended the 1x1 wall pillar I'd built on the ground floor onto the first to add better definition and shape to the balcony. Next for the sun cover roofing. This is going to be some very light roofing on the first floor just to protect from the sun and add a bit of colour contrast to the build, though of course we won't be roofing off the entire area. I built the first sun cover over the balcony, using vaulted ceilings to create angled archways and continue to build on the shapes that were already present on the ground floor. I will be making some small adjustments to this first roof in the furnishing phase, but you will see those very shortly. I built another sun cover at the back of the first floor, which will be a sort of meeting area, again as you'll see in the furnishing phase. I used vaulted ceilings again to create a nice archway and give some definition to this structure. Finally, I then placed roofs over these staircase sections. The first floor is designed to be a sort of private meeting area, so therefore I added the roofs over the staircase for a little extra privacy. Finally, for the finishing touches. I placed fences around the hole above the bath on the first floor, and I then moved on to the buttresses. Now these don't need to be too fancy, they're simply meant to frame the build. I built them using Argossean walls and Argossean rooftop caps and pieces. It's an option that works really nicely and helps to stop the build being so flat on the exterior. Finally, I also chose to add a sun cover roof over the entrance on the ground floor. Initially I did want to leave this open, but I instead opted to include a simple roof here to better transition into the build and to make the entrance a bit more interesting. Finally, when the shell of the build was done, it was then time to, of course, furnish. Approaching the build, I've added Argossean flags outside and inside the build, and I've lit the interior gently with Aquilonian braziers. You can also see the adjusted shape of the front bath here, and I think it works much nicer than the initial design. Reaching the rear bath, this is the more public section of the build. I've lit the area very gently, and I've added some radium torches inside the bath with blue dyes to add a slight blue hue to the lighting, almost like the water itself is being reflected onto the ceilings. I've decorated fairly lavishly, but still in a very minimalist way. For the most part, I've tried to let the material palette speak for itself. Heading upstairs, we reach the meeting area. I've included awnings here to make things feel a bit more complex, which I think works nicely. Here, an Argossean royal is meeting with a Turanian emissary, with soldiers from either side stationed next to the leaders and next to the staircase doors to protect them as they discuss. The verticality down to the bath works really nicely in this area, as does the balcony looking over the entrance. And there we have it, an Argossean Bath House in the desert of the Exiled Lands. Thanks for watching. It has been a long time since I last made a bathhouse, so I thought I'd give it a go today, and I am really happy with how it came out. Also, it's been a while since I've done any viewer requests, so if you have any builds you'd like to see me do, please do let me know in the comments. If you enjoy my content, all the links to my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, Host Havoc affiliate page, NordVPN discount and NordPass discount are available in the description below. However, of course, you can simply just leave a like, a comment or subscribe. Any of those are very greatly appreciated. Patrons get a bunch of nice benefits, including sneak peeks of videos, your name in every video, custom made wallpapers in 1080p and 4K resolutions, full-size build blueprints, Discord roles and more. On that note, a massive thanks to our patrons Sadialot, Randar, Connor, Ivy, Torn, Ill-Fated, Coffeeman04, Alfric and Eagle Rose. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.